for Priority Crimes Investigations, commonly known as the Hawks, led by General Lebeya. General, you are heartily welcome to this important meeting, but equally take this opportunity to welcome the representatives, officials from the Special Investigating Unit, the SIU. I'm not sure who's the leader of the delegation because I've not received any indication from Advocate Muchibi whether he's attending the meeting or not.
Yes,
thank you very much, Advocate. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Having said that, as you are aware, this is a follow-up meeting of the two agencies, law enforcement agencies, to reflect on their work in the Northwest Province. As we indicated in the past, and we do so now again, that both the Hawks and the SIU have got a very important role to play in the Northwest Province, given the fact that the province is under administration, wherein the national government invoked Section 100 of the Constitution by placing the provincial government under administration. In that, a lot of allegations were made in respect of issues of crime, issues of corruption, issues of fraud, issues of maladministration, and so on. Now, it's quite important to go to the bottom of that, and these two entities, amongst others, they've got an important role to play to stabilize those who are responsible, to investigate the allegations of corruption, and also make an input in respect of making sure that if there are those who are responsible for this, they do the necessary arrests so that the perpetrators of this must be charged, they must be prosecuted, and if found guilty, they must serve jail sentences as such. These important institutions have got to play that role, and in this particular instance, we call them because as part of our mandate as the Hoc Committee, we've got to get to the bottom of all the issues pertaining to this area of work. We've got to play our oversight function very effectively, and we can do so when we have the necessary information available at our disposal. It's important to check how far are these entities going or doing in respect of their work in that province. With that, I have just checked the attendance register. I see about 10 members of parliament or 12 who have logged in, are part of this meeting. And as I indicated, you are heartily welcomed. I've received one apology from Honorable Eunice Karim, who indicated that by just before 2 o'clock, he would love to be excused because he's got a pressing matter to attend to. I've said yes to him, it's okay, he can do that. With that, without further ado, let me firstly start with the Hawks. General Lebeya, you can introduce your delegation before you start with the presentation, and thereafter afford Advocate Muchibi, who is the head of the SIU, to also introduce his delegation before we start with the presentations. Let me quickly just finish that part. It's quite important. Over to you, General Lebeya.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. From the DPCI is myself, Lieutenant General Lebeya, leading the team. I'm sitting with the provincial head of the DPCI in the Northwest Province, Major General Mboto. the administrators are still trying to log in from the office, but those are just for the purpose of administration, the secretariat, as well as our communication. But the main participant is myself and Major General Mboto. So that is the delegation, honorable chairperson and honorable members.
Okay,
Thank you.
Before that, let me give over to Advocate Mutibi to quickly introduce his delegation before you proceed, General Lebea. Sorry for that. Over to you, Advocate Mutibi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I cannot see that. I'm wondering if the chair, am I visible? I've put on my camera, but I don't.
We can see you.
Great. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Chair, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to appear in front of the Honorable Committee. I am accompanied by our Chief National Investigating Officer, Mr. Lekgeto, who is here at the head office overseeing all of the national investigations and assisting with provincial investigations. I'm also joined by the provincial head of Northwest SIU, based in Mafikeng and Mahikeng, to be appropriate. The name is Mr. Israel Ndou. I'm also joined by Mrs. Mamukete Ramashaba. She is the provincial head of investigations. So they will be here with us, ensuring that all of the questions that are raised by the honorable members are addressed and responded to. Thank you very much, Chair. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. Without further ado, over to you, General Lebea. You can then proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. Just before I go into the presentation, I just needed to indicate, based on the questions that were also accompanying the invite, that the DPCI has three main operational arms. It is having the serious corruption investigation, the serious organized crime investigation, and the serious commercial crime investigation. Those are the three main arms that are involved in operations in the DPCI. The greater SAPS within the detective service have got the corruption investigation, the organized crime investigation, and the commercial crime investigation. The distinctive feature of these units in the greater service and those in the DPCR is the prefix, Honorable Chairperson, talking to serious. That is how we distinguish them. Chairperson and honorable members, I need to first indicate that we have been working on 51 cases that have been reported. Also, when one go to the legacy report, we will see that it has been 49 cases, and thereafter there were additions to make it 51. So the number of matters that we reported on the 22nd are the ones that are overall monitored by the interministerial task team. That is when we report before the interministerial task team, we report those 51 matters. The matters that I am reporting on today are in response to the questions that were raised at the previous presentation. It's a continuation of that will be directly involved with the the two sections that have been quoted in terms of Section 100 of the Constitution. We will be dealing with those in the presentation. It will also be noted that when we deal with the figures will not be exactly as we have presented them previously, as I have indicated. So in the previous reports, there should be some of the matters, 14 that were reflected there, but in this one, there will be other 15 matters that were not covered there. I'm just clarifying this so that when the figures are not tallying with the previous one, it is explained. Chairperson, now coming to the presentation, it will be seen here that the number of cases that we are having is 29 in this presentation. And then the number of those that are at court are 2. And then 7 of these matters are serving before the NPA and for guidance and also for decision, those that are completed. Under investigation is 20 matters, of which the amount is 122 million rands. So there are 9 of these matters that were registered before the intervention of on which 20 have been registered after the intervention. The number of that have been referred by the administrators are 10, but these 10 are already included in the 29 that I have mentioned. We have also categorized them in terms of the Section 100A as well as B that we have been requested to do. As it will be seen in Section 101A, coming from the Department of Social Development is 3, the local government is 3, the Department of Finances and Economy and Enterprise Development is 2, the Department of Tourism is 2, the Rural Department of Economy and Agriculture is 1. Coming to Section 101B, there are in the Office of the Premier is 1, in the Department of Health there are 5, in the Department of Education, Sports and Development there are 6, and in the Department of Transport and Community Safety are 3, in the Department of Public Works and Roads are 4. This makes the 29 matters that we are today reporting on. Honorable Chairperson and members, I'm now coming to the specifics of these 29 matters. The first one is reported in Mahigany in September 2019. As a matter of background, it is alleged in this matter that an official connived with service provider and submitted fraudulent claims of building materials which were not delivered to the Office of the Social Development. This matter has been completed, and then the docket was submitted to the Director of Public Prosecution on the 15th of January for decision. We have incorporated the dates as it was requested in the previous presentation. It can be seen that the number of statements that were obtained in this matter before it was submitted to the prosecutor for decision are 13. So that is the current status. We haven't dealt too much with the nitty-gritties, the details of this, but we believe that the information will assist. The second one, Honorable Chairperson, is the matter that was reported in December 2018 in Murukweng. This involved the Department of Social Development. In the investigation, we have obtained 11 statements. It is alleged in this matter that the Department of Social Development funded Muledi Care Center to sustain their project intended to uplift the community. The said grant was misused, Chairperson. And then,
General, can I request? Oh yes, I was requesting that the slide must move with you because we will still start in the first slide. Yes, please. Okay.
Thank you. I think it has now moved, Chairperson. And yes, then yes. In this matter, as I indicated, we also received the report from one of the stakeholders, the FIC. There is outstanding investigation, that is the bank statement that we are waiting for from the three main banks in terms of Section 205. That is what is outstanding on this matter. Then the third matter, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, is a matter that was reported in 2017 March at Mabatu. This is a case of fraud where the amount is 420,000 within the Department of Social Development. The matter is still under investigation. We have so far obtained 44 statements. In this matter, it is alleged that the employee of the Northwest Department of Social Development connived with the service provider and solicited money from the said service provider. So as I have indicated, the number of statements are reflected that have been obtained. We are still left with 4 statements. And once this is done, the matter will be completed. The next matter was registered in September last year. This is registered in Mabatu. It involved the Department of Human Settlement. In this matter, as it can be seen, that is recently registered, is only one statement that has so far been obtained. It is alleged that the department has advertised a tender for building RDP houses and appointed a service provider. All procurement procedures were followed. However, the service provider was paid service for the work that was not rendered. That is the 2016 until 2018. So this is the matter that we are still investigating. We are tracing the witnesses, that some of which are on pension. The next matter was registered in Rustenburg in November 2019, which is number 5. In this one, it involved the Department of Human Settlement, where the amount involved is 84 million rands. The investigation involved the allegation where an amount of 134,416,685 rand was transferred from the Department of Human Settlement in Bonanyala district municipality, where it was not accounted for. However, the money was intended for Rustenburg local municipality. So the investigation so far received or obtained 17 statements, as well as the report from the provincial treasury. There is still investigation that is outstanding, that is the report from the forensic company that was appointed, as well as interviewing the service providers and a bank statement emanating from this the major bank that is reflected. The next one, which is the sixth, was registered in 2017 in June. This one was also registered in Mahikeng, involving the Department of Human Settlement. The crime committed is alleged to be fraud and forgery, as well as uttering those fraudulently and forged documents. The background is that it is alleged that houses were transferred from the Department of Human Settlement to private persons, and that was done unlawfully. So far, 28 statements have been obtained, and there are some analysis that we are doing on this matter. The next one is was registered this year in January in Mabatu. This one is related to the provincial treasury. It is alleged that the supply chain manager misrepresented credentials when applying for a post. We are not unpacking much on this one, but safe to say that 4 statements have already been obtained. We are so far left with 4 statements, as well as Section 205 statement from the bank, and then the investigation will be complete. The next one, case number 8, was registered in February 2013. This one is fraud and forgery, as well as uttering. It is alleged that the attorney firm was paid inflated prices. We have indicated in the past the challenges and the reasons why it has taken long in this matter, but it can be seen that 30 statements were obtained, and then we are so far left with 3 statements, and the matter will then be submitted to the prosecutor for decision. So once we get the 3 statements, the matter will be complete. The next one is case number 9, which was reported in November 2019 at Mahikeng. This one involved 2.5 million rands from the Department of Tourism. It is alleged in this matter that 2 security companies were appointed at different times under similar specification, but were paid vastly different amounts by the department. So we are not elaborating much. Safe to say that 7 statements were obtained in this matter, and the service level agreement were also obtained. There are 2 statements that are outstanding, and once this is done, the investigation will be complete. The next one is case number 10. This one is registered in Mabatu in May 2018. It relates to fraud, corruption, and money laundering, where the Department of Rural Economy and Agricultural Development is involved. In this matter, it is alleged that AgriDelight entered into an agreement with the Northwest Department of Rural Environment and Agricultural Development, and as an implementing agent for that department. The department will pay money to AgriDelight for approved projects. Thus far, investigation have established that the department has made payments into the bank account held by AgriDelight. We are not unpacking much on this, but safe to say that so far 587 statements were obtained, and we are still left with 37 statements. Once these 37 statements are obtained, the matter will have been finalized. The next matter is matter number 11. In this one was registered in July last year. It involved fraud and corruption by the Office of the Premier. It is alleged that a service provider in the Office of the Premier, namely NEPO Data Dynamics, received suspicious payment from the Office of the Premier. NEPO was appointed to provide IT services to the Office of the Premier and numerous municipalities in the Northwest Province. There was suspicious payment that has been paid. So far, 36 statements have been obtained. We are left with 24 statements, as well as a report of the appointed company. And that once those are done, the investigation will be complete. The next matter is case number 12. That is was registered in January 2018, which is a fraud matter in the Department of Health. It is alleged that the Department of Health advertised a vacancy for an HOD post, and the HOD is being prosecuted on this matter. We will not deal with the details. Safe to say that the case is on the court roll, and the matter is remanded to the 16th of April this year. The next matter, which is case number 13, was registered in February 2018 at Mabatu. This is a fraud and corruption matter involving an amount of 30 million rands in the Department of Health. The allegations are that the head of the Department of Health signed a service level agreement with Cureva stroke Mediosa without following the tender processes. An upfront payment was made. So this matter is on the court roll, and we will not unpack the nitty-gritty details, as it can be accepted that it is sub judice. The matter is set for the 26th of July 2021. The next matter, which is case number 14, was registered on the 3rd of was registered in March 2018 in Mabatu. This is a fraud matter involving the Department of Health. The allegations are that the Department of Health appointed a service provider to render services of transporting patients from the clinics to hospital. The allegations are that the tender procedures were not followed to appoint the said service provider. So far, 12 statements have been obtained, and what is now left is an audit report. Once the audit report is finalized, the matter would have been concluded. The next matter, which is case number 15, was registered in January 2016 at Mabatu. This is a fraud and corruption matter involving the Department of Health. It is alleged in this matter that the Department of Health appointed service providers for the upgrading of Brett's Hospital, which was done allegedly in an unlawful manner. The case is now at the court. I mean, the case is now submitted to the DPP for decision. It was submitted in February this year. We are waiting for the decision, and there are already 10 statements that were filed in that matter. The next one is case number 16, which has reported in 2013 September in Mabatu. This one is a fraud and corruption matter where the Department of Health is involved. It is alleged that the Department of Health appointed a service provider to upgrade and service medical equipment at Vryburg and Brett's hospitals. The officials connived with the service provider to defraud the department by inflating the prices as well as paying for the services not rendered. So the docket is submitted to the DPP on the 9th of November for decision. Already in that docket, there were 20 statements that were filed. We are waiting for decision from the DPP as well as a directive, if any. The next matter is case number 17, which was registered in July last year, where an amount of 1.2 million is involved. This involved the Department of Education. 10 statements has already been obtained in this matter. The allegations are that an internal investigator in the Northwest Department of Education reported that the suspects, there is suspicions of school principal and the administration in that monies that were involved in the special school were somehow stolen from the school by using the school's checks for the personal gain of some individuals. The investigation in this matter was completed and submitted for decision to the Director of Public Prosecution on the 4th of February this year. We are waiting for decision and or directive, if any. The next matter, case number 18, is an inquiry that was registered this year in February at Mahikeng. This one is, the allegations are those of contravention of the PFMA as well as fraud. It involved the Department of Education. In this matter, 2 statements have already been obtained. It is alleged that the Department of Education appointed a forensic company. The forensic company submitted a report that pointed out that tender processes were flawed in appointing service providers. There we are waiting for 9 statements, and then once this is done, the matter will be completed. The next case, which is case number 19, is again an inquiry that was registered in February this year in Mahikeng. It also involved the Department of Education. In this regard, the forensic company made some allegations where it is alleged that the tender processes were flawed in appointing the service providers. 2 statements have been obtained, and then we are in this matter left with 5 statements. Once the 5 statements are obtained, then the matter will be complete. The 20th matter is again reported in Mahikeng as an inquiry this year. It also involved the Department of Education. 2 statements have been filed in this matter. The Department of Education again appointed a forensic company. The forensic company submitted a report which make allegation that the tender process was flawed in appointing the service provider. 2 statements were obtained, and as well as the forensic report. We are left with 11 statements in this regard, as well as those of from the bank, and then the matter will be completed. The case number 21 is again an inquiry in terms of the PFMA. Again, is the Department of Education that have reported that the tender processes were flawed in appointing service providers. It's the 2 statements that have been filed as well as a forensic report. We are left in this matter with the 8 statements and the statement from the 2 banks. Then the matter will be completed. The case number 22 is reported in Mabatu in November 2015. involving the amount of 498,000 rand. It is a fraud relating to the Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation. In this matter, it is alleged that the Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation appointed a service provider without following the tender processes because no quotation were obtained from other companies, and the service provider was paid for services not yet rendered. In this matter, 8 statements have already been obtained. The forensic report has been obtained. We are left with 2 statements, and once these are obtained, the matter have been concluded and will be submitted for decision. The next matter, which is case number 23, is the matter that was reported in January 2014, a fraud and corruption matter reported in Mabatu. This involved the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management. There are 64 statements that have been obtained already, and in this matter, it is alleged that the officials of the Public Works and Road and Transport colluded with service providers, and that the supply chain management process were not followed during the appointment of the Scholar Transport. It was further alleged that some of the appointed service provider did not own buses, and travel claims were also inflated. The docket was submitted to the Director of Public Prosecution on the 26th of November last year, and then a decision is still being awaited. Once a decision has been made or directive given, we will take it further. The case number 24 was reported in May last year in Mabatu. This relates to fraud and corruption in the Department of Community Safety and Transport and Management. In this matter, it is alleged that the HOD of the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management, it is alleged by that HOD that the department unlawfully entered into a contract with SA Express, and the contract was never put onto a competitive bidding process. The contract was for the rehabilitation and reintroduction of flights at Mafigen and Pilansberg Airport. In this matter, 22 statements have been obtained, as well as the report from the National Treasury. What is outstanding is 1 statement, as well as a bank statement from ABSA and the analysis. Once those are done, the matter will be concluded. The next case, which is case number 25, was reported in May last year in Mabatu. It is fraud and corruption involving the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management. In this matter, it is alleged by the administrator that there were irregular appointments of service providers to provide scholar transport. It is further alleged that the service providers inflated the traveling kilometers. In this regard, 19 statements were already obtained, as well as a forensic report. We are left with seven statements, as well as analysis. Once this is done, the matter will be complete. The next matter is case number 26, which is reported in August 2017 at Mabatu. This involved 3 million rands in the Department of Public Works and Roads. It is alleged that the Department of Public Works made an upfront payment of 3 million for renovation of Mabatu Stadium, and the services were never rendered. The docket was submitted to the DPP on the 24th of November last year for decision. We are awaiting for decision or directive, and once that is done, the matter will be taken forward for conclusion. The matter number 27, case number 27, was reported in November 2016 at Mabatu. This is a fraud and contravention of the Public Finance Management Act. It involved the Department of Public Works and Roads. It is alleged that the former HOD, together with the 4 district directors and the chief financial officer of the Department of Public Works, allegedly colluded to award a tender without following prescribed tender procedures. The tender was for construction of road for 4 districts. That is the Bojanala, Dr. Ruth Mompati, Magamuliri Molema, and Kenneth Kaunda. The department appointed a forensic firm to conduct forensic investigation. The docket was submitted to the DPP for decision on the 12th of November last year. We are awaiting for that decision, and then the matter will then be taken forward. The matter number 28 is a matter reported in January last year at Mabatu in the Department of Public Works. In this matter, it is alleged that the administrator of the Department of Public Works, that the service provider misled the department into believing that he is an engineer, and he was then awarded the emergency tender to carry out structural assessment at Kenneth Kaunda. In this matter, 4 statements have been obtained, as well as the National Treasury report. We are left with 10 statements, and the matter will be concluded. In the last matter, matter number 29, it is a case that was reported in Mabatu in March 2018, relating to fraud in the Department of Public Works. In this matter, it is alleged that the HOD of the Department of DPW misrepresented to the department that he had invoked Section 16A of the National Treasury to contract IAMA Consulting to render service in building roads within the Northwest Province. Furthermore, an upfront payment of 103 million was paid to the said service provider for services not rendered. So the docket was closed on the 16th of November 2020, as the decision was made to decline to prosecute on this matter. We are intending to be engaging the NPA on this matter to reconsider. There were already 70 statements that were made, were obtained in this matter and filed. So, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, these are the cases, 29 cases that the DPCI want to report on, that will address the issues that were raised by the committee in the previous presentation. I submit, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Lebeya. This was mouthful, was very comprehensive, and I'm very much impressed from where I sit with this kind of information. It's clearer that this is what you're doing in the Northwest Province to deal with the matters that are before you. It is way, way, way much better than the previous presentation that the committee was not happy about. I realized that some of the cases that you are handling the SIU is also handling some of those cases. With that, I'm going to invite Advocate Muchibi to present before the meeting, and thereafter we'll engage with the two reports. I'm not sure whether does Honorable Member Eunice Karim want to ask some questions, because we are going to he's going to leave the meeting within the next few minutes. If maybe there are questions that we want to ask, we can ask those questions, and that will leave. We will listen to the responses and give you feedback after the meeting. Honorable,
Thank you, Chairperson. I think you've been very gracious and very kind to me, and other members might resent it because I'm supposed to be here for 3 hours. I have, of course, explained to you the difficulties I have with Mondays. Fridays is fine. But therefore, I think I shouldn't do anything more. I think in fairness, you've been very kind to me, but I don't think I feel comfortable at being brought in like this. But since you have, and presumably we can discuss offline how we manage I've got a 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Mondays, and then sometimes I hold but look, let me not bore the meeting. All I want to observe is that, firstly, as we all know, it's staggering just listening to the DPCI head, right? I mean, it's staggering in one province. In a previous life, Chairperson, you might know, I visited many of the municipalities in the province. That will be from 2010 to about 2012. And we put all, Mr. Matibi, Advocate Matibi might know, he might not have been there then, we put all 25 municipalities under an SIU investigation. That would have been 2012. So our province here, Northwest, we had an endemic problem. It's quite almost bordering on structural. And you know, I'm hoping that members, when we do our reports, are modest about what we can expect to come out of a Section 100 intervention. So there are broader issues that in our report, I'm very happy to engage around some of my own observations. Secondly, as the SIU and in fact the DPCI know, the public's patience is not endless. They are fed up. And the problem we have, as our colleagues will know from the Hawks, with their limited resources, they do what they can. They could do better, as they themselves admit, but they certainly need to do more, but not without better support from, you know, the national fiscus partly, but that's not the sole answer. The issue really is, it's one thing to take things to the court process. Sadly, it's not always that we're able to secure conviction. So it's the quality of the investigation by the police, it's the quality of the preparations by the prosecutors, though they may be working with each other. So the issue remains that it's not a statistical thing. That's what makes it difficult, Comrade Chair, for us members, I'm sure others feel the same, to judge the meaning of the statistics delivered to us. A lot of work went into presenting it to us, we appreciate it, but really the issue is what is the quality of the statistics they're giving us? How prosecutable is the case they have, and can they ensure, well, to the extent it's possible, convictions? Those are the issues, but these are not issues I expect the DPCI to answer now. I will catch up by YouTube, or I'll check with the content advisor, whom I know very well, obviously, and the committee secretaries. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm very grateful to you.
All right, no, thank you very much. I'll do the same with any other member of the committee who's here and he leaves much earlier or he has other things to attend to afford them the opportunity to ask questions if they do have questions, because their inputs are quite important to this process, like your inputs are important to this process. It's okay.
But thank you very much. Yeah, I don't do that as a chair, so I'm learning from you. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Honorable Mutibi, Advocate Mutibi, over to you. Take us through the presentation of the SIU.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. I'm going to request my colleague to put up the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Lekgetho. Honorable Chair, this is a presentation which is a sequel and a follow-up from the presentation that was done at the previous meeting, which I had apologized for, and I really still apologize because I honestly always appear to lead the team. So today's presentation, we have based it on the focus areas that the Honorable Committee presented, so that when we present, we then respond to those focus areas. There were some of the reports that were attached when we were invited. We looked at those and ensured that we also take those into account. So the next slide, sir. Just as a background, we referred to the list of investigations that are covered under Section 101A and Section 101B departments. So the SIU, as we received these allegations when the intervention started, as we always reported, is that we then took these allegations, then assessed them and ensured that we process proclamations were appropriate. And once we have done that, we processed the proclamation, and they were covered by about 3 proclamations that we have currently. Some of them are still being processed because we've had an issue with the letters of support, but we have since received those letters now, because as a matter of practice, in fact, as a matter of law as well, our legislation says before the president signs a proclamation and it's on a matter that is within the jurisdiction of a particular province, he's got to sign that proclamation in concurrence with the premier of a specific province. So for us as an administrative process, to ensure that the president has got that concurrence, we then request a letter from the premier. So we'll come back to that, just indicating where the letters of support have been delayed. So we've got proclamations in the following departments: Department of Transport and Community Safety, Department of Health, and Department of Public Works and Roads. We will be covering areas where we've got COVID-19 investigations, and those are done in the following departments that relate into Section 100, 1A and 1B. It's in the Department of Social Development. Again, there's a Department of Health and Department of Education, Sports and Development. Next slide. This slide really should be dealing with, yes, the matters referred to SIU, but specifically the nature of the matters that are referred. So that line that's in the slide indicates that all the matters that are referred to SIU are relating to allegations of corruption and awarding of tenders without following a proper procurement process. So in a sense, when the proclamation is ultimately signed, it would also include SIU looking at serious maladministration and serious malpractice, including corruption. Next slide. Right, this slide deals with the focus area, how many cases emanating within the departments subject to Section 100 intervention since 2018 have been referred to the SIU for investigation. I've indicated, so this slide covers the 44 matters that we've always been reporting on, which are on our books. But as you will see, some of them have been referred to the Hocs, just so that we avoid duplication at that stage. But we may probably have also determined that those matters are purely criminal matters, which required the attention of Hocs from the onset. Right, the first one, the first line and the second line deals with the proclamation process. So we submitted about 7 proclamations for processing. Up to date, we have the proclamation that have been signed by the President as 5. Now, 2 of these proclamations, those are the ones where I said there's been a delay because of the letters that were not forthcoming from the Premier's office. We need to just report that as we sit now, those letters may have been processed, and we can confirm that and submit to the committee. Matters covered by the current proclamation and under investigation on this line should actually be reading by the then current proclamation. At the time the intervention was made, there were already a number of proclamations in the department or in the departments, and we said of the 44, 3 of those were covered by the then existing proclamations. Matters under investigation by the Hocs, these are the ones that I referred to, and my colleague General Libya may have covered them as he reported. 3 of them, we referred them there. And matters that from our side, as we assessed them, that have been closed, and the team was quite rigorous. We do have a case assessment process where matters are assessed for falling within our mandate. The 29 matters that we refer to there are the matters where the whistleblowers could not submit the documentation as required. But we're just saying closed there just for purposes of process. I'm informed that the whistleblowers are aware that if there's further documentation that they have, these matters will be reopened, and then they can be processed further. Matters that have been referred to other agencies, I'm informed that one of these matters was referred to the Economic Department. This could have been matters relating to some regulatory processes. So all in all, this slide indicates to the Honorable Committee that we had 44 matters on our books. Now, next slide. The next slide deals with the focus area of breakdown of the allegations according to the departments. These are just the allegations, and as I go through, I will indicate the areas where we have already obtained proclamations. The Department of Health, we received allegations relating to Ilima joint venture, relating to the Brett's Hospital, procurement and delivery of medical equipment, and also the construction of phase 2 of Bipilong Psychiatric Hospital, allegations referring to awarding of coal tender, Department of Health forensic investigation, allegations relating to repairs and renovation of works of Job Shimangana Tabani Hospital, relating to waste management, procurement irregularities. There was also a contract number DOH PS 10017 11AA that was referred to, and also the matters relating to Mediosa. Honorable Chair and honorable members, although we answered the focus area question, I have said to the team that should the Honorable Committee raise questions around the outcomes that we have reached to date, we can respond, or if need be, we can really do a further a supplementary report focusing on the outcomes that have been reached to date, because we've just covered the question as it appeared. But in this Department of Health, Chair, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, there's been outcomes, there's been irregularities found by the SIU investigation. The head of the department, as we speak, has been dealt with. I think he's no longer with the department. From the SIU side, we've also instituted civil proceedings that would determine any civil recovery that we will then conduct against him, so that we ensure that there would be something that we have recourse to on his side. We ensured that these phenomenon that state officials would be faced with irregularities and possible charges, and they resign and just take away their pensions. We ensured that it's not the case here. Once he left the department, we instituted civil proceedings to freeze his pension. So as we speak today, he has not been able to draw his pension. And we will do that and keep it and until the civil proceedings are concluded. Honorable Chair, we believe that this sends a positive message out there to all would-be wrongdoers that it's no longer business as usual. You can no longer resign and think that by terminating an employer-employee relationship, you can get away with it. So we have found that this approach really has an impact, and it does go a long way in deterring those others who would want to benefit irregularly or corruptly. In the Department of Local Government, the allegations referred to tender corruption, fraud that is happening at the department, investigation into issues around game transformation. In the tourism space, we had allegations referring to capital project and refurbishments of infrastructure at Dirapeng. At culture, arts and traditional affairs, Mabana Arts and Culture, misuse of funds for personal gain, and also allegations relating to youth empowerment project. There was a mention of the disappearance of about 10 million rands. At the education and sports development, there were allegations around financial misconduct. In the Premier's office, there were allegations relating to illegal transfer of provincial government of Northwest Province, ERF 1255, and the illegal sale of land in the province. And then there were also allegations relating to NEPO Dynamics and Agri-Delight. You'd have seen that the Hawks is also seized with the same matter. And as SIU, we did not proceed with that, just to also avoid the duplication, Honorable Chair. I think NEPO Dynamics, Hawks referred to that in their slide number 15. Agri-Delight, Hawks referred to this in their slide 14. We are really satisfied that they're receiving attention. Department of Social Development, there was allegations of irregular issue of 18 million tender. Department of Human Settlement and Public Safety and Liaison, mismanagement of funds, award of tenders to selected service providers. In the Department of Finance, Economy and Enterprise Development, appointment of service provider and irregular biodiversity permit. in the Department of Rural Environment and Agricultural Development, rhino and elephant illegal permits, the allegations around that. And then Department of Community Safety and Transport Management, irregular appointment of service providers for learners transportation. And then in the EPWP, failure to follow a fair process when inviting the community to the program. Further allegations in the Northwest Development Corporation dealt with the allegations relating to the sale of Christiana Hotel, the sale of wild animals at Christiana Hotel, illegal award of tender for Dikariki, and then Northwest Development Corporation, Tukiso and Tsireleto. Should there be a need for further details around this, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, the provincial head is ready to give further details. In the Morotile local municipality, there were allegations of the illegal award of the information communication tender, ICT, to the value of 129 million, more than 129 million. This contract has already been found irregular by the investigations, and the process is underway at the civil proceedings in the special tribunal, but there's also been other outcomes relating to disciplinary hearings for officials to be held accountable. In the Madibeng local municipality, the allegations referred to the illegal award of a tender for fleet of municipal vehicles. This tender was worth more than 190 million rands. Already the investigation has been completed in that regard and found the contract to have been irregularly appointed. Again, there's consequence management, and the civil proceedings are also underway in the special tribunal. Department of Public Works and Roads, there's been allegations around irregular award of a tender for refurbishing and resealing of 6 roads, and then again extended public works program. Those would then be the areas, Honorable Chair, where we have received allegations. There are those where the allegations were processed, and as I indicated, some of those fall under the number 29, where matters could not be supported by documentation, but the whistleblowers are aware, and some of the matters where proclamations have been issued and the investigations are underway. We can indicate specifically in terms of outcomes. There was another question in the focus areas. How many of the referred matters have been finalized and handed over for prosecution? So in relation to Section 101A and Section 101B departments, 9 matters have been referred, or 9 cases have been referred for prosecution, and the investigation is still ongoing on other matters. In the Department of Public Works, there's been one criminal matter referred for prosecution, and as you can see, Chair, that matter was referred on the 5th of February 2020. In the Department of Transport, there's been 8 cases referred for criminal prosecution. 7 were referred on the 2nd of October 2019, and the one on 10th April 2019. So, Honorable Chair, I know that at the previous occasion, the MPA appeared, and I know that they can answer for themselves, but what we do with them is that in terms of the memorandum of understanding that we have with them, we do engage, and they give us update on some of these matters. But their preference is that we should respect the mandate of each institutions, so that we should just indicate that we have referred X number of matters, and they can probably then give the update of where they are with the prosecutions. The next slide. Right. The next question was, how many of the referred matters remain to be investigated by the unit, and what are the timelines to finalize these matters? In relation to Section 101A and B departments, 7 matters are ongoing, and those are indicated as follows. One contract, colloquially referred to as the Buthelezi contract. This is ongoing and is scheduled to be finalized on the 30th of April of 2021. There is also a recovery of the 30 million rands in respect of the matter of the former HOD, which is at the Special Tribunal. In the Department of Transport and Community Safety, which relates to the inflation of kilometers by the service providers for learner transportation, this investigation is also scheduled to be finalized on the 30th of April of 2021. But Honorable Chair, I'm sure we will indicate in the next slide, there's also findings that have been made against several service providers in that investigation, and there are matters already at the Special Tribunal for the recovery. In the Department of Public Works and Roads, there's various contracts that are still under investigation relating to the Roads CAPEX program of DPW roads, upgrading of road D13 Morokweng Ventersdorp, upgrading of road D3492 Morokweng Bona, upgrading of road 327 Khanyesa Frahas Madinonyani, upgrading of road D413 Sitlopo to Mietmekar, and design and construct the reseal and fog spray of surfaced roads. The investigation, as we said, is ongoing. It's aimed to be finalized on the 30th of April of 2021. Next slide. The next slide was really about what is the total amount of public funds involved in corruption practices and maladministration. Chair, we approached this question as follows. Because the investigations are still ongoing, once they are completed, we will probably be able to give a sense to the Honorable Committee around the total quantified amount. So as we speak today, we're saying to the committee, the total amount involved cannot be fully quantified at this stage because the investigations are still ongoing. As I said, once they are completed, we should be in a position to give the Honorable Committee that picture. There are matters that are currently at the Special Tribunal for determination in the value of 59 million, and these ones are specifically from the Department of Transport and Community Safety. And then there are also other matters emanating from municipalities, which are at the Special Tribunal, specifically the contract worth more than 129 million at the local Moretele local municipality, and the contract worth more than 190 million from the Madibeng local municipality. So these figures added all together, they count to more than 360 million, Honorable Chair. So once the process of recovery is then concluded, we'll be able to then indicate the exact amount that has been recovered once the special tribunal has made a determination. Next slide. This slide is responding to the focus area, whether there are any cases of irregular expenditure being referred to SIU for further investigation. Apologies for the typo there, it should be referred. At the moment, formally, by any whistleblower or any state department, there are no formal cases that have been required for irregular expenditure referred to us. However, in all of these cases where we investigate, like in the previous 3 cases, which are just examples, and the others may still be coming because there's still cases that are under investigation, where SIU has made a finding of irregularity regarding a specific supply chain management process, and the resultant contract and the expenditure has been found to be irregular. So those amounts could then be categorized as irregular. So in the examples that I've given in the previous slide number 11, all those amounts counting to 360 million, because the process was irregular, those will invariably be categorized as irregular expenditure. Okay, the next slide. Whether there are any COVID-19 matters being referred to the SIU for investigation. Yes, indeed, there are COVID-19 investigations in the following departments that are under Section 100. In the Department of Social Development, we do have COVID-19 investigation. In the Department of Health, and in the Department of Education and Sports Development. So there are other cases which were referred for COVID-19 investigation, but they do not fall under the Section 100 departments. For example, in the Ratlo local municipality, the City of Matlosana local municipality, and the JB Max local municipality. On the COVID-19 investigations, we have already referred 4 criminal matters to the NPA on the 2nd and 14th of October 2020, 12 November of 2020, and 4 January of 2021, respectively. There are other outcomes, Chair, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that we have reached in various of these departments in the COVID-19 investigations, the details of which we can supply. Next slide. What is the number of matters which the SIU has been investigating prior to the Northwest intervention in the province? Please provide details and progress. Before the intervention, there were matters under investigation in relation to Proclamation 2 of 2018, which is scholar transport, extended public works program, and the upgrading of the roads as indicated before. As we indicated, the investigations are at an advanced stage and they are to be completed on the 30th of April of 2021. I've indicated to my colleague, the provincial head, that he should really just check if there are any other outcomes that have been reached, because in the scholar transport already there are findings, I think, of quite a number of service providers that have inflated the prices, and hence we are at the at the special tribunal with them for recovery. Next slide. So how many matters were rejected by the unit, and what were the reasons for this, and whether this can be reviewed going forward? As we reported earlier on, 29 matters of the 44 were provisionally closed by the unit due to lack of evidence or supporting documentation to support the allegations. However, as I indicated, if the whistleblowers can provide further evidence or supporting documentations, the allegations will be reviewed for purposes of processing either to proclamations so that they can be followed through. The whistleblowers are aware of this status. Next slide. Other investigations which do not fall under Section 100 departments, but other state entities. As we have indicated, I think we've referred to this in the previous slides, those state institutions falling in the Northwest province are as follows. In the Moretele local municipality, that was relating to the ICT contract. The investigation has been completed, and the outcomes have been reached. We are at the special tribunal to recover. In this case, Honorable Chair, I think the committee needs to be aware that the municipal manager who was in this municipal area, in this municipality, whilst we made the findings, he resigned, and I think as we speak, the provincial head, you can correct me, but I think he's now at the Matlosana municipality. So this is the phenomenon that we have observed. This is just an example that when people are faced up with allegations, they resign, and then they crop up in another state institution. There were also investigations, as we indicated, in Madibeng, and then in the Northwest Development Corporation. These are the state entities in Northwest, not falling under Section 100 departments, but where investigations are ongoing. Honorable Chair and honorable members, we thought it appropriate that we indicate, even though they date back quite a long time back, but I think this is the matters which Honorable Karim referred to. We have included them here for completeness of the picture. The SIU also investigated 24 municipalities previously under Proclamation 72 of 2009. Of course, the investigations have been completed and the presidential report was submitted. So, because honorable members and honorable chair, it is really our interest as SIU to ensure that our investigations make an impact, and the impact that the public desires and that the honorable members also would like to see. We have continued to follow up on some of the outcomes that were reached to ensure that the actions or consequence management is implemented. The presidential report, I'm sure it can be sourced and be supplied accordingly to honorable chair and honorable members. We just next slide. Next slide indicates all of those municipalities that were investigated, and there has been tangible outcomes in all of these municipalities. We can actually do a write-up, Chair, to save the committee from going through the presidential report, but that report can also be provided to the committee. But we can do a write-up in terms of what were the outcomes here. And then it is really important that the municipalities are really checked in terms of whether they've implemented these outcomes. We've reached out to the executive authority responsible for local government in the province. We will also be engaging with him because he's really shown that he would like consequence management in the municipalities. He has already implemented some of the consequence management arising from the COVID-19 findings, which we are really pleased about because it sends the right message that there will be consequence management. The next slide. By systemic recommendations, Chair, this is some of the outcomes that we reach, because when we investigate, because we also look at various processes, risk management processes, financial management processes. We also look at the nature of the maladministration and the nature of malpractices. Then we come out with what we call systemic recommendations. Like any other forensic investigation would do, would be to then say, this is what we found went wrong, and this is how we recommend that processes, systems, and people failures can be addressed going forward, so that that is taken into account the next time the state institution plans or does its risk management processes. But in this regard, we've made just systemic recommendations relating to strict system monitoring, evaluation, and reporting of services rendered by service providers. There's various details that we have done around this, and that the policy guidelines on solar transport tender should be strictly adhered to, with strict verification of kilometers and adherence to tender requirements. What we have found here, Chair, is that the departments they really they were lagging in terms of monitoring the kilometerage and whether the service providers complied with that. The expectation is that once the contract is awarded, there should be ordinarily some form of monitoring and ensuring that the service provider delivers as expected. But in this case, that was wanting. We didn't find that there were any monitoring mechanism, and hence the irregularities that we found, and we are now in the special tribunal seeking to recover. The last slide just deals with the risks and issues that the teams encountered. But of course, as we raise the issue and the challenge, we also indicate on how we have dealt or mitigated that. The tampering and destruction of evidence, lack of documentation, that is what we come across various state institutions. And it's really destructive, and it can really disturb the investigations. In some areas, we find that there's lack of cooperation when the documents are sought by the SIU, and hence we then revert to the powers that we have in terms of our legislation, conducting search and seizures. And in many instances, once we've conducted searches and seizures, we do obtain those documents, and those documents become very beneficial to the investigations. The closure of offices because of COVID-19 cases, like COVID has affected any other business. Our investigations were also on the receiving end, but we did devise ways and means to get those documents that were held. Demonstrations as the state institutions. So this in particular in other municipalities, in other state institutions, where we were confronted by that, but the teams devised some means to interact with state witnesses away from their offices, just so that we can get on with the investigations. Prioritization of COVID-19 investigations, yes, indeed, because of the level at which there was public interest around COVID-19, We prioritized that, but we did ensure that other investigations also do not suffer, so that we remain ensuring that the other investigations also receive attention. Right, that is the end of the presentation, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. We will take questions as the Honorable Committee can pose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Advocate Mutivi, for the presentation. I think, too, the presentation was detailed, extensive, and it was much better than the presentation that we received last time, even though it was also a good presentation. With that in mind, can I open the floor for members of Parliament? You can ask questions, make comments and observations, as well as some suggestions on how to proceed forward. In that order, Honorable Vitoy will be followed by Honorable Karen Pesa. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Thank you for the presentations that were provided today. Do you want to say something, Chair?
Oh, it's okay. I was just saying that all members must show their faces. The meeting is shown live on TV, and the South African public want to interface and connect with the people who are representing them in Parliament. Okay, like you're doing perfectly well, Honorable Vitoy. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, as mentioned in the previous meeting that we held when the two different departments presented to the committee, it's obvious that information on the cases that are being investigated cannot be provided to the committee since it's sub judice. But my question, or the question still stands, is the previous Premier implicated or being investigated in any of the cases that are currently under investigation? Because nowhere can we see that that might be the case. There are quite a lot of allegations against the previous Premier, but nowhere can we see that he is investigated. I'm referring to the 2018 allegations of donation of game by the Honorable Mwamapelo. Now, the court did rule on this, and the ruling was that the game must be returned to the province, and a good quality of product must be delivered. But nowhere can we see that that has indeed happened. And then there was the bizarre 100 million game reserve deal that took place in 2019. Nobody's made a mention of that. The allegations of cattle given by the Honorable Mwamapelo to Jacob Zuma, and then the allegations of sheep to the millions of rands that were also taken to the previous minister's own farm. Nowhere can we see any evidence of that. Chair, and then referring to the amount of funds in both reports by the SIU as well as the Hawks, very small values are mentioned. I mean, a combined value that was mentioned just now is 360 million rand. That's the funds that's involved in the investigations that's currently taking place by the SIU if they are successful, and that figure might change slightly. But when I refer to the Auditor General's report, page 21, it says the irregular expenditure continued 2017-2018 financial year, 1.3 billion. 2018-2019 financial year, 2.2 billion. And then 3 billion rand 2019-2020. And they raised a red flag stating that the prior year amounts and balances are impacted by the reconfiguration of these departments. For example, the current year by Kochta amounts includes a 406 million restatement relating to the HS and LG that's still one department. So this 360 million rand compared to 3 billion rand, there's a huge difference. And then it's heartwarming to see that culprits' assets are frozen referring to the HOD of Health, where it's mentioned in the report that his pension benefits are placed on hold or frozen. My question is, has similar action been taken against other people that might be investigated, of which we do not have proof, like Supra Mamapelo? The reason I'm focusing on this name, as I said in the previous meeting, most or quite a lot of the irregularities that took place did take place under his guard. It emanated from the Premier's office, but nowhere can we see that the Premier himself is being put under investigation. Chair, I think that is all for the moment. Maybe I can raise questions later. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, we will come to, before you speak, Honorable Professor, I'm sure the committee would want to firstly discuss whether is it appropriate to mention people's names who are not charged or whatsoever. I'm raising this point because nowhere in the presentation that any investigation that we receive from either the Hawks or the SIU that mention a specific person, and I want us up until, for example, the necessary processes of law are complete, a person is charged, a person appears in court, that we can talk about a specific person who is being investigated. But I'm not sure. Maybe at some point, before we engage with the honorable members, engage with the responses from General Levea and Advocate Mutivi, maybe we would want to have a short discussion on that, whether is it appropriate, is it okay, should we say what has happened to Mr. Ditoy, who is being investigated, what happened about Mr. Malan, who is being investigated, and I'm sure it's proper that we'll have to discuss that and check whether it is appropriate or not. Yes, within the rights of people and respecting the rights of people and mentioning them without being charged in platforms of this nature. I'm sure we want to discuss that. But let me give over to Honorable Professor and continue along those lines up until we finish. We'll come back to this particular point because I don't want us to just push it aside or include it without really getting the implications thereof. Over to you, Honorable Professor. Honorable Professor, the platform is yours. Honorable Professor.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, now you're audible and we can see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the presenters that presented us with a more extensive report than the previous time, specifically for the reason why we have the ad hoc committee. First and foremost, I just want to refer to case number 5 of the 134 million rand of the Bojanala municipality. On that, the speaker said that they are still waiting for the forensic report. And the forensic report, I reopened the case after we were told that the case was closed, and there was some kind of story around that. Attached to the case was the forensic report that was submitted to the Hoc Committee of the NCOP. I also wrote to these investigators, said, and I told them we also have the agenda item of council where this was discussed, but they never came back to me to date regarding if they want the agenda item where it explicitly was indicated how they were to spend the money. Thank you for exposing the tip of the iceberg to us today of what is going on in the Northwest Province and in the Northwest Provincial Government, revealing that the Northwest Provincial Government is riddled with fraud, corruption, and blatant theft without any controls of checks and balances, no questions asked, no accountability, and no consequences to be met by any of these people. They were either just silently resigning, or they disappeared, or they will just be realigned into another position. Together with all municipalities, all are busy in nurturing fraud and corruption within their administrations. And I am deeply concerned, therefore, by what is presented to us. And while listening to General Lebeya, realize the people of Northwest are subjected to a cancerous disease in the Northwest provincial government and in all its municipalities. And I do not know, and I cannot foresee how we are going to get rid of this if we do not cut to the marrow and the bone and remove this from the system. That is the main reason why hospitals are slaughterhouses, why there are no medications available at the pharmacies, while pharmacists are allowed to supply doctors in Mafeking with Schedule 5, 6, and 7 medication from the state-owned government chemist in Mafeking. Why our schools is in such a state of dilapidation? Why we have failed scholar-learner transport, no water in municipalities, collapsing municipalities, roads that were upgraded and graded and gravelled more than 20 years ago. Municipalities that are absolutely, at this stage, not complying with any obligations. They don't have meetings. There's no statutory obligations that they follow. Nothing is happening in those municipalities, and nothing is happening to them. The request, Honourable Chair, that the law enforcement agencies ensure they focus within their proclaimed mandates, with the commitment of committed to every community in Northwest to investigate and prosecute all misappropriation and all financial mismanagement in every department. It is right, like the advocate said, it's no business as usual. But they mentioned roads, the upgrading of roads. They say D313, Morokweng to Ventersdorp. There's no such a road from Morokweng to Ventersdorp. You either use the N17 or the N14 or the N12, even if you have to get from Morokweng to Ventersdorp. Also the D3492, Morokweng to Bonabona. There's no such a road. So I do not know where they want to, what is going on in this report, but it's not making sense. The business of the Northwest Province is to professionally manage the Northwest Province on the basis of fraud and corruption, or the tampering and destruction of documents, etc., in every department. It became an uncontrollable disease, as I have said. And this is to have to be eradicated if we want to get the Northwest Province back on track again, to get the Northwest Province to be a province of development, of providing job opportunities to the many of our people that are without jobs. But this is not properly, it is not even a mission of them. It's only something that they use in speeches, because you cannot see it in the actions that is provided here today. And you see the money that is wasted. And we know that the money that is wasted in the reports that they brought us today is not a tip, like Honourable De Tooy said. It's not a tip of what is projected in the Auditor General's report. So Chairperson, I request that we request to have the outcomes of the President's report as stated to us, so that we can make sure that the systemic rot is eradicated from the Northwest Province and that we sooner than later save this province from the horrific government at the moment.
Honorable Chair, you didn't have a question. It's okay. It's okay. Honorable Zukiswa Ngita.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me also join the previous speakers in appreciating both reports, which were able to respond accurately to our questions that we have asked as a committee. Chair, I'll start with the SIU. What I would like to know from them, Chair, in their background in the presentation, they've highlighted 3 departments which they are investigating. But what they failed to do, as far as I am concerned, Chair, they have not highlighted each department in terms of how much is involved in terms of their investigation. How I wish they should go to that extent so that we know exactly when we do follow up, how much is this that they are busy investigating. 2, Chair, is also talking about the proclamation by the president. But I just want to be sure, in the last meeting, I did raise the issue of premiers that are delaying to sign as they are expected. What is the recourse? Is their delay in of signing have implications in terms of them moving forward with the work that they are doing? Going to the first of the Hawks, I see that they've done a lot of work in terms of their investigation. How I wish at least we will have, as the last presentation has done, tell us in their view, how long would it take for them to finalize some of the cases, especially that I pick up there's one investigation which they started in 2017. If they can indicate to us when are they just their view in terms of finalizing. I know that it's not them alone that are the only ones that would make the case to be finalized. There are other stakeholders, but when they talk together as all the affected parties, when are they finalizing those cases? Because we'd like to see finality of all the cases. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Nita, followed by Honorable Gilliam.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Let me also take the opportunity to welcome the reports, which is in a much better report than the previous ones. I'm partly covered by Honorable Nita because I also wanted to know the issue of the Premier of the Northwest, whether there is any measures being taken to fast track that issue that the Premier must sign. Then when it comes to the Hawks report, Chairperson, I think they partly covered concerns raised by the committee. But there is, I want to ask the General, in the report, it does not reflect anything on cases investigated prior the investigation, the intervention, as per the guidelines of the committee, whether we will get that kind of report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Gilliam, followed by Honorable Sileku.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon to the members and to the officials from the SIU and from the Hawks. Chair, mine basically is just to get an understanding in terms of the law enforcement agencies, the SIUs and the Hocs and the NPAs, how often do they actually meet to discuss these cases that have been referred? Because, Chair, what we seem to get out of presentation, there is referral made that they are still waiting for an answer from certain state agencies. And then it brings a question, how often do they, as these state, law enforcement agencies, meet pertaining to these, cases, as everybody must stay in their line? Also, Chair, what I would like to know in terms of the cases that talks about contracts, an example of a fleet, while there's an investigation, or if that particular case has been referred to the Hocs, what happens to that contract? Is that contract suspended, or is that contract terminated, or what happens, just to give the members of the committee an understanding is when they are dealing with service providers, that are under, that are a little bit dodgy, and their cases have been referred. What happens to such contracts? Also, Chair, what is worrisome for me is these 29 cases, referred by the whistleblowers that has been defined as closed due to lack of information or whistleblowers not following up. So my question to the SIU, what assistance or how often do they interact with these whistleblowers to make sure that whatever is outstanding is actually given to the SIU so that they can actually, deal with these cases? Because for me, Chair, it does not make sense that someone would put in an effort of reporting a particular case as a whistleblower, but in the middle of this case, and then will just decide to say, no, I'm just going to sit at home, or maybe, let me try to rephrase also what I'm trying to say. Can the SIU maybe tell us what could be some of the issues that could make a whistleblower not to follow up on a case that he or she has actually reported to the SIU? And also, Chair, to latch on what Honorable Karim has said, what also is worrisome, Chair, because when you look in terms of the numbers of cases that has been referred to the Hocs, one beg to ask a question of saying, is these cases that has been referred to the Hocs, how were they? Did the SIU actually look at them and give so, or let me say, what are the chances of the cases referred to the Hocs for prosecution? How many of the cases are we just going to be sitting here and saying, oh, the 40 cases were referred to the Hocs, and then after 2 years or 5 years, when these cases have been followed and all these cases have been dealt with, are we going to say, okay, none of them has actually been conviction? So what I'm trying to say, Chair, when they refer cases to the Hocs, what are the percentage, or what do, in their view, is the cases that they referred to the Hocs, able to be prosecuted should all the processes be followed? I think that's all I have at this particular moment, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mwima.
Thank you, Chair. Let me also express my appreciation for the two presentations as made by the two institutions leadership. Secondly, Chair, I want to also utter the words that you have made in terms of expressing a view on tremendous improvement from the presentation that we have received. I want to believe that for the purpose of our work, as Section 100 Hoc Committee, we are now in a much more a better position to appreciate progress that the two institutions have made with regard to the investigations that are currently underway, cases that are closed, and cases that are referred to other institutions. And it therefore calls upon us to then allow them an opportunity to continue doing their work. I want to believe that at the right time, we will again entitle the team for the purpose of getting progress with regard to outstanding issues. From my side, Chair, it clearly illustrates the seriousness with which the two teams led by Advocate Committee and General Lebenya on the work of this committee. Because from the work that we had with them in the previous occasion, we were able to express, as a committee, we were able to express a certain issues, and from the work of the committee, again, there are certain areas that we have identified, and in their response to those issues and the approach, I want to believe that as a committee, we are better positioned now. Let us allow them an opportunity and a space, because we have committed ourselves to say, in interacting with the two institutions, not only the two institutions, other institutions as well, NPA included, we are going to respect their independence so that they are then able to do their work without any fear, without any favor, in a much more impartial way, such that any decisions that they arrive at must not have any comeback. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Muima, in the absence of any other hand, I would like to take a bite as well in respect of the presentations. I first want to commend both General Lebeya and Advocate Mutivi. I think this is quite good. It is quite comprehensive. Where I sit, like all other members of parliament, I can see what you are doing. I can see the kind of work that you are executing. And my view is that this is a lot of work to be accomplished. Now, I have a concern with regard to the two institutions. I'll make an example. When there was a crisis in the hospitals, in the health service in the Northwest, the Department of Health brought in extra manpower, including soliciting the support of the South African National Defence Force to help in the hospitals, because they regard this as a crisis of massive proportions. When the Department of Education realized that there were problems, they gave the Department of Education in the Northwest support in terms of sending more personnel to help. The Department of Finance as well, in terms of the support that the National Treasury is giving to the Department of Finance in the Northwest, in order to ensure that it puts up the financial management systems in place. This is what these other departments have done to support their counterparts in the province, because of the magnitude of the work that has got to be done in order to stabilize the province and to correct whatever that is wrong. in the Northwest Province, and that is quite commendable. Now, coming to these institutions, firstly, the cases that you're dealing with are of serious nature. There are a lot of cases that you're dealing with. And most of the cases, some of the cases, you refer them to the NPA for possible prosecution. And that demonstrates the kind of work that this entails. Now, I had a discussion with Advocate Batoy. In principle, she agrees that we need to take regard Northwest as a special focus in order to deal with this. Because as we speak, a democratic government is under administration. There is an intervention because things were not going well in that province. Now, what I don't understand, and I want you to address us on that particular point. Why don't you send extra teams from both the SIU and the Hawks to go and help your teams on the ground in order to deal with all these lots and lots of outstanding work in order to bring this to finality and in order to stabilize the province? I haven't heard you speaking to that particular point like all other departments have done. They have sent a lot of teams, and expectedly, I thought that the Hawks will send more personnel in the province. The SIU will also send more personnel in the province so that they help to fast track all these particular processes. Honorable Karim says people's patience is running out. They don't have a stable government. They were told that there was corruption in their government. They saw their government collapsing. And this needs an effort from all the players to go to the province and do whatever that they've got to do in a very systematic way, in a very punctual way. For me, that is quite important. And I would love that the general and the advocate must address us on that and what is it that they can do to fast track the processes by beefing up, by supporting, by strengthening the teams that are already doing the work that is done at the moment in the Northwest. For me, that is quite important. The second point for me is the duplication. It is quite clear that some cases that the Hawks is dealing with, the SIU is also dealing with those cases. At what point are you meeting? At what point are you discussing this duplication and overlap of the cases? For me, that is quite important. And I would like you to share with us what you do under those circumstances to address those particular issues. Now, again, the two presentations do not say to us, yes, we are delaying to finalize the cases. There are outstanding work to be done to collect statements and to receive the reports, to do all of the work that we're doing. What are the reasons? Why are you delaying? Why these delays? What causes that? And how can we unlock that so that you move with speed? Do you have any capacity challenges? As I indicated that necessarily you, under the circumstances, you send the best of your best to go to the province to assist or to go to this situation and assist in order to fast track the whole process. What are the processes? What are the capacity processes? Problems? Do you have the problems with the resources in order for you to fast track these particular cases or what? For me, that is very, very much important. It's a matter that must be addressed. Specifically to the Hawks, is there any matter that was prosecuted and was withdrawn? And if so, which is that matter and why it was withdrawn? For me, that is a very straightforward question. Is there any matter or matters which were withdrawn? Which are they and what are the reasons that they were withdrawn? as such. That is a specific question to the Hawks. And lastly, a specific question to the SIU. You dealt with the tampering of information by the destruction of the evidence in some municipalities, but you've not indicated to the meeting how have you dealt with that particular issue. And lastly, the report that deals with the interventions from different municipalities. I will appreciate if you can forward it to the committee so that the committee must look at it with a view of formulating the view on it, whether it falls within the scope of the ad hoc committee in terms of our work, in terms of the intervention, or it's a matter that must be referred to another committee to deal with. If you can just give us that information, we'll discuss it and decide where it must fall. Lastly, I raised a matter that Honorable Ditoy raised, because in my view, I don't want us to mention names. If he says, for example, there was an investigation in the Premier's office, what has happened? There are missing cattle. There are cases around Mediosa that we have mentioned. There are cases around NEPO dynamic that we have mentioned. What is happening? Why can't you fast track that? Why can't you arrest the people, the culprits? For me, it's okay. But if we start to mention the names of people, I feel very much uncomfortable because we don't know where we sit and we don't really want to know as to who is being investigated. Why don't we investigate that gentleman and that gentleman? Why do we investigate that lady and not that lady? I don't think that we love to know that. All that we want to see happen is to see these institutions doing their work without any interference from anybody, including us, doing their work without any fear or favor or even prejudice, doing their favor independent from any other institution. That's all that we want them to do, because we have confidence in the law enforcement agencies. As to who they are arresting tomorrow, it is something that I think, in my view, it is outside our scope, but we expect them. Where there are acts of criminality, where there are allegations, they must be fully investigated, and the perpetrators must be arrested. And it is in that sense that I said, mentioning the names, unless Honorable Ditoy want to speak on the matter, but my feeling is that let's not mention the names. I'm sure they know what they are doing. And if they don't, let us tell them. Let us tell them they are here with us. Let us tell them in their faces why we think that they are not doing their job. But if we start to encroach in terms of who they are investigating, how they are investigating that person, that becomes a problem for me. Unless you don't share what I'm saying, maybe before they proceed, I would love you to respond to that so that we iron out this particular matter. And we must appreciate the fact that we're dealing with a very sensitive issue. The law enforcement agencies are obliged to report to us, to give us information, to enable us to do our oversight function properly. But at the end of the day, we must not interfere with their work. We must not tell them who to arrest and who not to arrest. They know what to do because they are appointed to do that kind of job. I hope that the Honorable Ditoy understands what I mean. But if that's not the case, maybe I'm too far or I'm stretching it too far. We can a bit talk about it before we allow them to kind of respond to the questions. Honorable Ditoy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, for the record, I want to put it straight. I never said that the previous Premier, since I cannot refer to his name, the previous Premier of the Northwest Province must be arrested. I never said that. My questions was towards the previous Premier, and we can nowhere in the documentation is it stipulated that the previous Premier is being investigated for any allegations or alleged misconduct that took place. the alleged misconduct to which I referred is not something that I sucked out of my thumb. There is evidence for that with regards to media statements, media reports, etc. So since the committee seemed to be uncomfortable with me referring to Supramumapelo, my questions that were posed to the two presenters, where I mentioned that name, please, I'm referring to the previous Premier of the Northwest Province that was basically moved out when the intervention started in the Northwest Province. So to sum up, if I can please be answered, if the previous Premier of the Northwest Province are being investigated in any matter, if there is any matter, it could be please be provided with information on that, since mention was made to the HOD of Health in this document, referring to a post or a position that someone was in. If we could handle it in that manner, it would be appreciated. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Dictor, the matter, these are two different matters. The HOD of Health is in court. He has been charged, as the report says, on the Mediosa thing. And there is another case that was reported here on how the HOD of Health was appointed, and those who were responsible are in court, and their names are of public knowledge. But my point is that we cannot say, are you investigating that former Premier of the province? We can't say that. That's my view. We can't say that.
With all due respect, Chair, if we're not allowed to say that, how can this committee be expected to play our oversight role? Most of the contraventions that took place emanated from the previous Premier of the Northwest Province office. And in the documentation that was supplied to us by various presenters, it only stipulates that people working in the Premier's office are being investigated, has been dismissed, or has been before a disciplinary committee. So do not tie our hands. I think it's in public interest to find out if the previous Premier of the Northwest Province is being investigated by the SIU, the Hawks, or any cases pending before the National Prosecuting Authority. This is not victimization that is taking place. It's a matter of transparency, Chair. Thank you.
The last thing that I will do as the chair of this committee, Honorable Victoria, is to suppress anybody. That is why all these matters pertaining to the meetings of the committee are open and transparent, and there is nothing that we are hiding. And as you are correctly saying, all the reports were saying the people in the office of the Premier are investigated. The people in the officials in a particular department, whether it's health, whether it's public works, or any other department, are being investigated. But they never mention and single out any individual. And that is the problem that I have, that you are beginning to single out an individual who, according to you, might be investigated or is investigated, and you want an information about an individual. That is what I have about what you say. But if they say we are investigating people in the office of the Premier, in the Department of Health, or any other where, in the municipalities, that suffices. That's all that I'm saying to you, but not to say you must investigate or that and that particular person is being investigated. That is the problem that I have with what you said. That is why I said, let us just discuss it so that we understand clearly what we're doing, because it will mean that we are prejudicing the investigation and we are forcing the law enforcement agencies to investigate a particular person that we want them to investigate. And I'm not saying that anybody, including the former Premier, must be investigated or must not be investigated. All that I'm saying is that the law enforcement agencies must be allowed to do their job. And where I see it, I don't want to know any specific individual that I must be told that is being investigated, but they must investigate matters that are brought to their attention. They must investigate the officials and the politicians and whoever that is brought to their attention. But is that their responsibility to tell us who they are investigating? I don't think so. And I think that that falls outside the mandate and the scope of this particular committee and in what we are doing. I'm going to allow them to, with all these sensitivities attached to this particular matter, to allow them to respond, and they can speak to this particular issue in the context of the law and in the context of not prejudicing the investigations and in the context of not prejudicing any South African who has got his right. That must be respected by this process and what we are doing going forward. Let me start with you, General Lebea. You can respond.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, for the questions that have been raised. Starting with the first one, regarding the question of whether there is an investigation against the former office bearer in the Premier's office. Generally, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, so from the DPCI side, we have been saying consistently that whenever we are conducting an investigation, we never mention any person that could be a subject of the investigation until such time that the person has been secured in court and become an accused. So we don't mention a suspect, we mention an accused person. In terms of Section 35 of the Constitution, whenever somebody is being suspected and then we have reached a stage where that person needed to be charged, we warn this person according to the Constitution. This is along the lines of the judge's rules. We shall know that a person is being warned in terms of the judge's rules that there are these allegations against you, and you have got the right to remain silent. You have got all these rights kick in once we have notified a person that such person is under investigation. We give them an opportunity to respond to those allegations. And we warn them that whatever response you are going to give us will be put in writing and may be used against you in court. So with that understanding, Chairperson, it will be not in the interest of justice for any other person to hear that he or she has been investigated and we are mentioning that in public space before such a person has been warned in terms of the Constitution. So that is the practice that we are doing, Chairperson. Is in all our cases, we refrain from mentioning any person who might be subject of the investigation. Chairperson, the next matter that we need to respond to is the question of the timelines on finalization of cases. Most of the investigation that we do depend on other external role players, be it waiting for a statement from the bank, saving a notice in terms of the court processes, and waiting for the particular entity to provide us with the response. Some of the cases that we have been mentioning the number of statements that are remaining. We may say that we are left with 37 statements that we need to be getting to complete the work. At times, this 37 statement, we can be able to finalize quickly. And again, it is the people that will be providing these statements that may, to a certain extent, influence the timeline. So we haven't put these timelines. It will be a an estimation that we estimate that for 37 statement, it may take us 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month, but it all depends. So we have not put this in the presentation, but the expectation is that we want to finalize this as speedily as possible, which will also be supported by the answer that I will be giving on the question that the Honorable Chairperson have asked. With regard to the question as to whether we haven't mentioned the matters that may have been under investigation prior to the intervention, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, we shall have indicated in slide 3 that there are 9 matters that were already under investigation before the intervention come into place. So, but in unpacking all these 29, we haven't separated them and say that this one is the one that was before the intervention, this one came after the intervention. But statistically, we shall have mentioned them in that slide where we said that number of matters is 9, number of cases registered after the intervention in this regard is 20. So though that we have tried to highlight in that slide, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. The other question is, how often do we meet with other role players, wondering why matters have to be submitted to others for decision? Most of our work, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, we work with the other role players. As an example, with the NPA, we will from the beginning involve the NPA with the investigation. They will obviously from time to time be guiding. But this does not deprive them of their constitutional mandate, legislative mandate to decide on this matter. So while we shall have discussed, engaged them during the process of investigation, when it comes to final decision, it is their sole responsibility to make that decision. With the SIU, Honorable Chairperson, it can be seen from time to time when they conduct the search that they are not alone. You will find that it is the DPCI and the SIU that are involved in the search and seizure, whereas the matter itself is still in the hand of the SIU. So whenever the need arises, we engage at several levels. With the head of the SIU, we engage constantly. There are also forums that we serve in that look at the overall work of these entities. So we engage on several forums, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. With regard to the dedication and providing resources on these matters that seems to be taking time, the pace on which these matters are finalized. Indeed, there are several aspects that influence the speedy finalization of this. The Honorable Chairperson have went further to indicate, is it a matter of the resources? Chairperson, we need to indicate that since we have started with the enhancement of the responses, we have given the Northwest additional 17 officials in the process of promotion to enhance the capacity to deal with this. I can also say that we have now, we are finalizing, which has now been approved yesterday, the contracting of 90 investigating officers nationwide, and this we will obviously be distributing in the various environment to try to close that gap that always affect the capacity. While they will not necessarily be all focusing on these cases, others will be focusing on TRC cases that we know are a priority. Others, there are also other aspects of some other municipalities that are not under administration. We have got similar cases of violent crime in the form of cash in transit. So we are sharing these, but it is a process that we are capacitating this the unit. It is not the only process that we have put in place. There are other processes that we are advertising additional more than 200 posts to capacitate. So we are building capacity while working on other matters. So at times, this indeed affect the speedy finalization of these matters. But for a year, I think that the COVID pandemic have also slowed down the reaction on some, because some of the witnesses that we have to be engaging with at some time, they will not be readily available. So it have, to a certain extent, slowed down some of the speedy finalization of these matters. The question of a case that shall have been withdrawn while it was on the court roll, indeed we can mention that there was a case that was on the court roll and then it was withdrawn. We haven't talked about it here because it is in the municipality level. That particular case, obviously it was withdrawn based on the fact that the statement that was deposed of representing the National Treasury was signed off by a person that is not authorized to sign off this statement from that particular office. So it was withdrawn based on the want for a correct signature on the report that was attached. So we have since engaged, and then that particular process is being finalized. I think the process is being corrected. And then although it shall have taken longer than what we expected, it is being finalized. The matter will again be back on the roll where it was. Chairperson, I think with regard to some of the comments, regarding the forensic report, in some areas we can acknowledge that we have reports like from the provincial treasury, but that will not be necessarily sufficient, hence the need for another report from external functionaries. So that is the area that one of the cases may have been said to have been closed, but from our side it was not closed. It is a matter that is still proceeding. So those, Honorable Chairperson, are the questions that have been directed to the Hawks, and if we have missed any of those that require, the Hawks will be able to be reminded and respond. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable General Lebeya for the responses. Advocate Mutibi.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair and honorable members. We appreciate the opportunity to respond to the questions. My colleague, General Lebeya, responded to the issues or the legal issues and the legal risk relating to the naming of individuals before the legal process takes its course. but I need to just confirm in this regard, Honorable Chair, you did also ask about the issues of duplication. The matters that we have referred to in the allegations slides, the allegations we received in the Premier's office, those matters, in particular NEPO Dynamics and Agri-Delight, we are not investigating because our colleagues in the Hawks are investigating. And that really deals with the issue around duplication. I'm informed by the team that some of those allegations that we received there in the Premier's office, those fall within those where they did not receive further documentation, and therefore no investigation is at this stage being done by the SIU. Relating to the issues around donation of game, bazaar, cattle given, we have not received allegations in that regard. And if there are allegations that would be forthcoming, SIU would be ready to look at that. But the team informs me at the moment that those were the allegations that we received, and some are being investigated by the Hawks. The issue relating to the AG of South Africa findings versus what's on our investigation book, the teams continue to interact with the Auditor General, and to a large extent, our investigations have been allegations based. And we do have a memorandum of understanding with the Auditor General of South Africa, where the AG also refers some matters whom, in their view, warrant a further investigation by SIU. I'm sure they do the same even to the Hawks. So if they are in a position, with a view that any matter warrants further investigations by law enforcement agencies, they refer to them. They refer to law enforcement agencies. But what we could do is to obviously interact with the AGSA representatives in the Northwest. The teams in the Northwest will engage just to ensure that where there are matters that require further attention from the AG's point of view, the teams are aware of it and they are taken into account. I've requested, and I will request the teams to do that. The issue around the freezing of pensions, the question was whether we do similar actions to other cases. Yes, we've got a number of cases where we have freezed pensions of state officials. And as I said, that really serves as a deterrent. And we have seen that it's got the necessary impact until we complete the civil proceedings, and then we can then either have recourse to the pension for purposes of recoveries, depending on how the civil litigation is completed. The example of the Moretele municipal manager who moved from Moretele to Matlosana, the team established there that they did not move to freeze the pension because he did not resign. He was transferred, I'm informed. He was transferred to the municipal, to be a municipal manager in Matlosana. But that in itself is really problematic, that the municipal manager would have moved from one municipal area under investigation where findings have been made, and he's just moved to another municipal area. So in that case, there was no legal basis to freeze the pension because he had not resigned. Honorable Fesser, on the Bojanala case that you mentioned to the tune of 134 million, the provincial head informs me that we do not have that case on our books. So I've informed him that if there's information in this regard, we will receive that information and follow up accordingly. The issue around the roads, the information on the roads that is in our presentation, and the Honorable Professor says the report doesn't make sense because the roads do not exist. That information, and the team has just provided me with further details. The information has been uplifted from the department information provided to SIU. And that is why we are able to mention even the reference numbers on the slides. So if the question is whether those roads exist or not, the investigation, as we said, it will be finalized by the 3rd of April, is ongoing. If there's a finding that that road does not exist, we will return that finding based on an investigation that has been undertaken. But for now, these details that we have, and we can demonstrate that to the committee, we obtained these details from the department, and those are the ones that are under investigation. The investigation will then return the findings relating to those specific roads. Honorable Nita, the 3 departments, how much is involved in each department? Honorable Chair and honorable members, we can provide that information to the committee. I don't want to mislead the committee and just mention high-level figures. We can provide the exact amounts to the department. The issue relating to the delays in getting the letters of support that go with the proclamation, we have raised this issue with the presidency, and they have engaged all the premiers across the country and executive authorities where there has been eminent delay. And I am sure that in this case, the Premier's office was also contacted because we have seen some of the proclamations being signed. But it is an issue that we have identified as an administrative issue that delays the process. We need the office's consent to put in place administrative measures so that these processes can be fast-tracked. Honorable Gillion, I think you dealt with the issue of the Premier's delay. It was addressed. Honorable Sileku, how often do law enforcement agencies meet? I think my colleague, General Libya, answered it so well. It is an entrenched practice amongst us law enforcement agencies. We do interact from time to time. In fact, some of these cases, my colleague, the provincial head, actually just reminded me that in order to avoid duplication, some of those matters that are in the Premier's office, after we received the allegations, we did meet with the head of the Hawks, General Libya, where they indicated that they had already been seized with those matters. And it is as a result of that interaction that we are able to avoid duplications. We are able to coordinate and speed up some of the matters. How often, or what could be some of the issues that whistleblowers do not follow up? Honorable Sileku, I think there could be quite a number of issues, but what we have determined, and in various investigations, more often the whistleblowers just simply fail to follow up with the information that we require. They've got they've been informed that there has been an irregularity in a certain area, but they are not able to back up. And simply because we've got a legal process to assess these allegations, and that process helps us immensely because we end up avoiding what is called fishing expedition. We want to make certain that the allegations reported fall within our mandate before we kick off the process to get the proclamation. But more often we get other contributing factors, being that the whistleblowers feel unsafe. But in that regard, we'll ask them to come out in so many ways so that if they become threatened or just afraid, we need to know so that we can then investigate the nature of the threat and be able to engage with the whistleblower protection program, which is managed in the NPA space, or witness protection program. So in this case, it could be various factors, but we are very clear that in instances, I've said to the teams that in instances where we have not processed the allegations to a proclamation, the witnesses, the whistleblowers need to be informed so that they know that their matters have not been processed because of XY reasons. They should know so that there is no perception that whistleblowers report matters and they are not being dealt with. So in this regard, the team continues to interact with them and ensure that they are satisfied that their matters have been dealt with satisfactorily. But of course, as we said, if further evidence is uncovered or presented, we'll take those processes forward. Chair, the issue around sending more personnel, I think I would like to certainly agree with that on an ongoing basis, we assess our capacity problem. And in fact, I was talking to our provincial head on Friday, saying that although we have prioritized COVID-19, but the other investigation also need to be attended to. So we are currently busy populating the structure that we came up with after our restructuring. We looked at the resourcing requirements from all the provinces, including in the Northwest. But also now, because of this intervention problem, intervention issue, it's not a problem, we will ensure that the team that side, they would have by now quantified the resources that they need further. I wish to undertake to you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that we will ensure that they get the resources that they would have identified. We do agree and share the view that the longer this investigation takes, is the longer that we delay taking actions. Tampering with information, how have we dealt with this? Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, in the slide where we're dealing with risks and issues, the issue around where there's a threat, where we receive information that there's a threat, that information is being tampered with, immediately we invoke our powers and then we move in. And as General Libya indicated, we are really cooperating very well, that where there's a need to do search and seizure, the two teams, Hocs and SIU, interact and they plan accordingly. We get the necessary judicial orders from the magistrates or for any other courts, and then the two teams act jointly to execute on those search and seizures. And we have seen them benefiting the investigations quite immensely. Honorable Chair, we will get the report because that report, of course, is at the presidency. We will interact with the president's office so that they can allow us to share the report or send the report. I don't think there will be a problem in that regard. This is specifically relating to the 24 municipalities that Honorable Karim referred to. No, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. That brings me to the end of the questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Advocate Mutiri. We are left with 10 minutes. Is there any member who want to clarify something before we adjourn? None this far. All right. On that note, let me thank you very much, the two agencies, especially the heads of the agencies, General Lebeya of the Hawks and Advocate Mutiri of the SIU. I hope that you took into consideration all the matters which were expressed by honorable members here, and that we need to ensure that we expedite all the related processes to ensure that we assist the province. As for the committee, we are going to meet on Sunday in Mafikeng in the Northwest Province on Sunday, as I said, the 14th, because from the 14th until the 19th, all members of this committee will be in the Northwest to interact with the departments in the province to check from them in respect of the information that we have received this far, but we are also going to use our oversight visit in the Northwest to do some oversight in respect of the project, especially on the areas which are quite important, because we need to see by ourselves whether indeed the progress is being registered in terms of intervention and helping the province to be a normal province like all other 8 provinces. And we are going to have a discussion as a committee with regard to this. We finalized the IPID report engagement. We are now with the Hawks and the SIU. Next week, Monday, when we are in the Northwest, we are going to interact with the NPA. We set the date for the 15th with the NPA so that they answer all of these questions that that honorable members are asking. With that, I want to once more take this opportunity to thank the participants in this meeting, the Hawks and the SIU, and equally thank members of Parliament for their contributions and for their dedication and their hard work in terms of this committee. This is not an easy process. It is a process that seeks to entrench Parliament in respect of its work, the oversight work of Parliament, so that we hold those who are responsible accountable. That is what we are doing, including with these agencies, because we want to see progress being registered. We want to see wrongs being corrected. We want to see those who are involved in the acts of corruption and fraud and all of that be arrested, be prosecuted, so that justice is dispensed, especially for the people of the Northwest Province. And they are losing patience because of all the problems which happened in their under their watch, while they were watching their government collapsing. On that note, thank you very much, honorable members and everybody else for attending. This meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Honorable Chair.
Honorable
Thank you.
Chairperson and honorable members.
Thank you.